All right, hello everybody. It is not Astro Bob. Today it is Brian, your friendly neighborhood product manager here, to join in, I guess, the festivities that is live streaming, especially when it comes to LaunchBox. I'm hoping everybody's doing okay, as I should clean up my menu and show some LaunchBox in here and what we've been doing over the last week, and everything that goes along with it. I hope everybody's having a good time. How you doing, Andrew? I'm hoping we'll have a good few hours here together. I've got a lot to do, which is, I guess, good, since we are in the process of releasing a beta. And I'll get to that and show everybody that process as we go, and that'll be a fun little thing to do for you guys. One thing that really sucks is that people, maybe Andrew, you've noticed that I've had this sort of itchy cough. I mean, the whole winter has been pretty terrible for being sick, catching things, and it was finally going away. And then on Monday, it was a holiday here in Canada, and we went into a restaurant for a niece's birthday, and then ended up catching something out. I was like just out of it, and now I'm like fully back into having my itchy throat and gravelly voice once again. So there's that fun going on. Outside of that, I am doing great. I have played some pretty good games. Oh, Andrew, your voice is completely gone. I'm hoping it's not going to go today. I did have a couple meetings that both kind of went long, so I have been talking for, I would say, about 3 hours today already, so let's do another 3. It can't be any worse than that. What's funny is that when I was growing up, I distinctly remember, I don't know if anybody else grew up in the same period where things are going from 2D to 3D, and the craze behind 3D, and then Nintendo came out with the Nintendo 64, and as a kid, it's sort of like, it was that mind-blowing moment, especially if you were a Mario fan at the time, of seeing Mario in 3D, and that has always stuck with me. And I played throughout the years the heck out of Mario 64. Because of that, I got, I guess now looking back, at the time, I thought this was the best move that I could possibly do, was to trade in, since I didn't have any money, my Sega Genesis, all the games, my Super Nintendo, and all of my games for the new and exciting Nintendo 64. And that's what I did. Thought it was a smart move at the time, completely regretted it afterwards, but don't regret the memories that I have in Super Mario 64. That was a great game, and I had the itch just the other day to play it, and for the first time played it with retro achievements on, and that definitely did add another level to a game that you might feel like you are kind of done with or haven't returned to in a long time. So that's been fun. I don't know, has anybody been playing any fun games recently over the last few weeks? I'd love to hear about it. I also would love to hear about any games you feel I should play. And one of the things that I noticed, I haven't had too much time to look through the comments. Some of our videos finally went to YouTube. People started commenting on it. I should really look into that and look into anything that I could answer in future streams that people might comment over there. One thing that I noticed was someone, a friendly reminder that instead of me writing down what people think that I should play, I can open a playlist and do it there. In my defense, what you guys see on the stream is actually my developer build. And the developer build gets blown up quite often. So while that's a great idea and I'm going to do it, by the next week that playlist might have been blown up and lost to the ether. How you doing, Game Noob? I hope you're doing well today. But yeah, that's been my weekly fun. Jumping back into Mario 64. And playing that. And then I used Mario 64 to test these badges. Or game saves and all that stuff. And happy to say, because of those tests, they are now working better than ever for mostly rare situations where they weren't. Oh, you got caught off guard? Yeah. Astro Bob can do that. He can catch us all off guard. He just it's like a ninja with his streams. Oh yeah, you recently bought the N64 controller clone? I did the same thing. I was looking for those controllers for a long time, a few years ago. That's probably more than a few years. It's probably like 5 years ago, six years ago. And I found some with the USB adapters, set them up. They play really well. And at the time, I was working in a huge office building where I had full access to these big meeting rooms with giant projectors, and I had brought the controllers in and a laptop full with LaunchBox on it. I called in some guys, and we played 4-player GoldenEye on the big screen. I guess the big projector screen in the dark. We turned off the lights, played for a few hours just at work, just having some fun. That was crazy. I didn't know what to think because I hadn't played GoldenEye in a long time, and I know that the controls are a bit wonky these days, but man, I think I played enough as a kid that it just sort of came back. And back when I was a kid, I played. It was weird. There was one summer when it came out where that's all I played. We had 4 friends every single day. We would get together all summer long without fail, and we just played till morning till night. That was that was a year of my childhood, or at least a summer. Mario 64 with modded textures. I have a very long time ago. I mean, how long has it been, do you think, since they decompiled that? I'm going to say that feels like yesterday, but every time I say that, I look back and be like, oh, that was 2018. And I'm like, 2018, I guess, feels like yesterday, but it is not anymore, is it? Can't say that when you're in 2025. But yeah, I put together, it's been a long time, I'm going to say before I joined the team, and I put together, that decompiled thing. There was some app, I don't know if it still exists, that will do it for you and put together the version of Mario 64 with specific textures. At the time, I chose the best one, and man, that was a crazy cool experience going through the game like that. And I'm pretty sure that was the last time I played the game. And C-Beats, which game was that? An N64 controller that you can use on a modern game. I mean, that's a funky controller. I mean, it's not like it's a weird controller because of I don't know, the three prongs, right? That's weird. But not the. I guess if you really think about it, if you just changed the C buttons into an analog stick, then you basically have a modern controller with a few less buttons. And by a few, I guess 4, 5, 6 less buttons. That's a lot of less buttons. That's true, yeah. I think at that time, really badly wanted to relive the N64 days using LaunchBox. And so I feel like I bought 4 USB N64 clone controllers just for that experience. And was it worth it? I would say so. That was a pretty good day in that meeting room. Nowadays, I'm very much an 8-bit dough guy with these guys, the Pro 2 controllers. I do enjoy the feel of them. The feel of like the plastic, the buttons feel very nice. Not exactly like the Super Nintendo controller that it's trying to emulate, but no complaints. Definitely feels premium. However, I picked this up really cheap. This 8-bit dough one, that its main benefit to me is that it comes with a dock, and all I have to do is pick up the controller, and then it just connects automatically. I don't have to press anything. I don't have to like hold down any buttons, press a start button or anything. And that actually makes a huge difference to day-to-day life on which one you would actually go and grab. Because I know, hey, I'm just going to pick that controller up and instantly it's working. And the day that they do that in this form factor is the day I switch to that controller. As I actually much rather use this controller. Oh, so yeah. Game Noob, you're talking about those board things that replace the original, like using the actual controllers. But you swap out the board and it makes it like Bluetooth ready. That I never got into those. I am super scared of touching and breaking my old controllers. I'm sure it would be fine. Like I'm sure just like unscrew it and put it in. I'm just scared. Nice Retro Fighters Brawlers. Brawler 64. Controller for the win. Yeah. Yeah. It's all nostalgia at this point, those controllers. The one controller that I wish would make a comeback, and I'm probably in the minority here, is the GameCube controller. I really like that controller. I wish they would make a modern version that feels... That's an idea for 8-bit dough. Just create like a modern version of that controller with the same kind of button layout and the same kind of quality level as these with a stand. And I seriously, I would use that. I really like the button layout of that controller. The big A button. controller always felt nice in my hands, but I do know that I'm in the minority. Okay, and you're there with me, Chunky. Uh, that's good. Yeah, I kind of miss. And the thing is that modern controllers can play those games just fine. So it's not like you need one. I just wish they had one. So much so that I was looking for clones, and I got one with that layout, and it was fairly bad, unfortunately. Like, the buttons felt way too cheap. The the main thing that didn't sell it was the triggers that have like that analog thing going for it, where it's technically like two buttons, right? You got the analog thing that you can press down uh, in different pressures, and then that last click that happened. The button was there and it did the same movement, but nothing happened until you did that last click. So literally, the controller wasn't even you weren't even able to use it for GameCube games because of that missing functionality. So that was a waste of money. So yeah, I jumped into to this game, started getting retro achievements like immediately when you started the game. It started some timer for some leaderboard right away. I think it was for how fast can you get 4 stars. And I was like, I could have gotten that super fast like 6 years ago. But I'll give it my best. And kind of like chugged me along to just keep playing it. But unfortunately, didn't have as much time. I definitely have the urge to jump back into this game soon-ish. We'll see how well that does. Any other games anybody's been playing before we jump into all the topics of the week? In the meantime, what I'll do is I'm going to add a new playlist, like I got suggested, for games to play. Or I could call it Game Queue. Let's do that. Game Queue. And let's make it a manual playlist. And we'll put it right in the root. And put it at the very end, I guess. GameCube. GameCube Cube. All right, let's do this. So I'm definitely going to add Super Mario 64 to that. Add it to my GameCube. All right. It's working just like I knew it would. I should get out of that queue. So Mario versus Donkey Kong. Here's what's funny about that game. I never played it. Like I saw it at the time, and I was like, that looks cool. Had a Game Boy Advance, never picked it up. And it was like maybe a year ago, I finally opened it up and just found out what everybody else that's played it figured out, how like fun that game was. It just keeps you going, keeps you playing. Really nice, fun game. So I will definitely add that to the queue. I'm gonna add one more. You didn't know that there were two versions of Link's Awakening? Yeah, I mean that was my jam. I was a huge Link's Awakening fan when it was on the Game Boy, and when it came out on Game Boy Color and I got Game Boy Color, that was like a big deal at the time. It's funny to think about that getting color for the exact same game was a big deal, but it was, and jumped on that. And I think I still have at least one of those versions. I think I at least still have the DX version. Let's see, what do I feel like? A role-playing game? I would if I had time. I'd say if I could play anything, maybe you want to play a beat 'em up. Anybody know any really obscure beat 'em up games? Either ones that nobody really knows about, or ones that from a series that nobody really knows about. Fighting Street 2, yeah. But that's a fighter game. And you're saying had a go at Shamus yet? Did you say that right? I don't know. What is Shamus? And Dunk, you're saying Punisher. Which Punisher? Apparently I only have one. Not sure why I was thinking there was multiple. Or is there? Maybe the related games feature will let me know. It is not. Interesting. I don't think I have ever played this one. So yeah, that is going on the list. I mean, it's a Genesis game. It's got to be good. And it's the Punisher. Guess we'll find out, Seabeats, if that's the same game or not. I'm going to guess it's not showing up because it's not really part of that. Yeah, there it is. Well, it's this one, I'm going to guess. Yeah, I feel like I played this one, so if this one's the same, guess we'll find out. Or we could play the NES one. That's is that a gun game? But doesn't actually use a gun? That's what it looks like. Yeah. It's like should have used the gun, but I guess they decided, hey, they ain't making a light gun game. That's a funny one. All right, so that's a good amount for a week, and I could probably get into all of those. Play a little more Super Mario 64, some Mario versus Donkey Kong, and some Punisher. I'll let you guys know next week how that goes. But let's jump in. I mean, what has everybody been doing? I've been, I guess we've all been kind of working on the next beta in Windows. So like on the Windows side, we know that a number of things have cropped up, mostly due to the .NET 9 upgrade being such a a huge change in the framework, and when they make so many changes from, what were we on, .NET 6 to .NET 9, you kind of don't know how that's going to affect everything. And if LaunchBox is anything, it's definitely a lot of things. And so some of those things we've already fixed most of them internally, and we are going to be releasing a beta today that will address mostly all of them. Not all of them. Some of them came in too late. Some of them we know about but haven't been able to track down, and I'll talk about each one of those. But more importantly, what I think you guys should know is that we are publicly, we just started this, so you guys can go to our new feature base website at feedback.launchbox.gg, and if you go to the bug reporting section, or bug reporting board, let's call it what they say it is, what we've done is put any known issues there. So you might run into a problem, or maybe you just want to know what the known issues are, and you can go here and see if we know about it. And we'll do our best to put at least all of the major ones here. One thing that doing this will also do is, just in case you wanted to create a new bug report, there is a feature here where if you decide that you're creating a bug report and you're filling it out, it will start. So let's say you have like a database, you get an error and you're pasting the error in there. You see that similar posts automatically will pop up right here. And you can click it and be like, oh yeah, that is basically the error I'm getting. And there's sort of like a workaround solution for it. And then you don't have to post a new ticket, because what we would do is just combine them anyway, and then you can just write a comment, maybe fill in some information, tell us whether it did work for you, tell us whether it didn't, and we can keep going. Maybe it's like a false positive and you thought that it was related and it's not. We can let you know about that as well. Yeah, that would be interesting, right? That it would just like go somewhere here or something, but nope. This company decided it needed to go to the bottom. That's fun. Maybe that's a suggestion to these guys that run FeatureBase. So the good news is that all of these are fixed that we have on this list. Oh yeah, they have feedback. They have a feedback form to submit a feedback about how you want to collect feedback. Yeah, that's great. As long as they read that feedback, all right, so I'm trying to figure out. We'll go through it. We'll update the beta at the moment, and let me check if what I'm about to say is true. The first thing, if you ever wondered behind the scenes, what would update first? If you wanted to know really what's coming down the pipeline, is our changelog page. So this page right here on our website, if you just go to changelog for Windows or Android or whatever, you'll notice that there's a version 13.20 section that has made an appearance, and it kind of showcases all the changes that have happened in this version. And so I haven't released it yet, but this will give you sort of like a what would be in this first beta would basically be here if you catch it before I hit the beta button, beta live button, or whatever we want to call it. So that is something we're definitely going to do today together. So that's two things. We have on Android. Android's been pretty good release overall, I would say. You could see that there was a ton of just sort of fixes and quality of life improvements in this last version that really solidifies what we did in version 1.16, which the main one was really taking us to a new framework and bringing us to the point where we are finally ready and kind of comfortable to start adding new features to this thing. The good news, well, something that I'll say, is that if you do use Android and you loved the YouTube streaming feature, which was broke by Google when they did their some YouTube update, broke it for everybody. They really don't want you to stream their videos unless it's on their website. They need the ad revenue. So if we have made some advances. There's two things that will come out in a beta soonish, which is the fact that there was a download feature, so you could download those videos that stream. I believe in the game window, or so in the game, you would get a menu. You can edit the game's media, and under video, you would have the option to download that streamed video. And we have that fixed, so that should work. And the way that we have to do it now, before you could just like download, like you could just stream a video and it would just stream and then you can just download it. But now it comes in two pieces. So it comes in, the only way to do it now is it comes in a video and an audio stream, and they're two separate streams, two separate files. And so we have to like download them separately and then interweave them together and create a file like on the fly. And so that's what we will be doing with the download option. For the video streaming option, because of that, we had to make a choice. Either we could just not bring it back until a solution presents itself, or right now our best option is to bring it back but only stream the video and have it so that there's no audio. And so for this beta, at least, what we're going to do is do that. Make it so that if someone wanted to use this feature and they turn it on, we will stream the video that is available for that game without any audio. So at least you'll see a moving picture. It'll be like a moving screenshot. Like the silent video game days. That was a thing, right? So we'll see. We'll see how people... Oh, Gamey, we already have a download option. So that's not a thing. But if you mean like a custom option where... So this is all to do with streaming. Like someone turns on the option, they're navigating through their menu, they don't have a video for this game, they land on a game, and then instantly we play a file that's being streamed off the internet for that game. So no download, it's saved in a temporary spot. If we wanted the audio for that, what would end up happening is, so let's say we turn on an option, use audio as well. You would be navigating through your game library. You would stop at a game. We would check to see if there's a file. If there is a working file, we would then begin the process behind the scenes to download both the video and audio, and we'd have to download. We have no choice but to download the full video. Remembering some of these videos are like an hour long playthroughs, and so you're just sitting there waiting. We have like a little like downloading or some sort of indicator that we're doing something. And it would just be doing that for quite a while. We'd be downloading, muxing them together, creating a file, placing it in some directory, and then playing the file. And let's say that process could take 2 minutes, 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds if we're lucky on some short 30-second videos or something. So download both audio streams and try to just stream them together. That'd be interesting. I wonder if that's an option. It might not be with the way that our system is. But hey, I'll write that down. I'd say if that actually works, best case scenario, there would just be like a desyncing issue happening. So you wouldn't quite, both of them wouldn't quite be playing at the exact times that they should. But we are on Android also going through the same process of upgrading to .NET 9, although that's been a little less problematic because we already went through a process of updating to .NET 8. We needed .NET 9 for a few things, and so we're there, and that jump wasn't as big of one, so that's already done, and we're currently in the process. We'll have a beta out next week with a few different things, including the .NET changes, the video streaming changes, a few fixes that we found along the way, that sort of thing. And that's what's happening on Android. On the web, we are very, very close. What's really cool is that we got this we set up a kind of pseudo production environment. So we have a test environment where we test our things, but then now we have a staging environment where we can do a deploy just as it would be in our production and see what the problems were. We did it, found a number of problems, so it has worked out that it was beneficial to do this. And we've been working through those problems. At this point, we're down to basically, I think we're basically done as far as what those problems are. So like, I mean, I can show this off a little bit. This is our games database website. And as everybody met Stefan on Tuesday on that stream, and he was working on a SSO front end piece for that SSO project that Josh been working on. And he's also the guy that's working on this piece. So if I don't know, let's let Super Punch Out. That's a great game. That one should be added to my list. It's the game page for anyone that hasn't been around the last 2 streams or so, where I showed it off, where the game page is getting a little bit of an uplift with people's feedback and taking into account everything with some newer technologies under the hood. And we are basically showing the same overall style as the previous website, just with, let's say the feedback that we got was, hey, let's condense the information a bit more, but still keep it modern and the way that the current website is. Make it easier and faster to edit. So a lot of the underlying technologies where you're going to see the most beneficial changes are when you make a change to the database. And that will come, and you'll see a huge change in that when we get to the add new game feature. That takes a long time. Editing a game, that always takes a long time when you make changes to the game. So luckily on my side, I have this admin bypass on my account, so I can bypass the admin and see how long it takes for a change to put through. When before, it would take quite a while when I hit the submit change to when the change actually goes through. Now, if I was going to add just like a random genre here, and I could do like a number of different changes, maybe another Nintendo Cube. Maybe I want to change changing the overview a bit. And all those can be changed all at the same time. I can justify testing the edit game menu. And I hit the submit changes button. That's how long it takes for the change to go through. So you see Adventure is now there, Nintendo Cube is now there, and my little thing that says changing the overview is now there. And this is basically all thanks to this new framework that we have implemented here. Changing back. There we go. And I've mentioned before, but for people, there's the media section, which, I mean, is on the same page for one. Two, is more organized in ways that people kind of expected. So it's much more organized, and the full screen option is actually a lot more clear. And looking pretty nice. Just more detail overall is being displayed to the user at more times. So all you moderators out there, all you people that love to edit to the database, this is coming, and this will give us a start to what you can expect moving forward. And from here on out, we can really start focusing on adding stuff to the database, expanding it out, including the things that we wanted to do, like the conversations that we had in the past with like alternate release dates and things like that. I definitely want to add more of those things as soon as we possibly can. So definitely expect this out. I'd say if it's not this week, it'll be very much early next. We're pushing really hard to have it this week, though. So it basically means if you're watching this on YouTube later, it's already out. Just go to Games Database DB, go to our Games DB, and you can check it out. I really like the idea of this new search bar, which I'm hoping we can universally put in as soon as we can to all the pages. If I was going to look up Super Mario World, you would get a list of results first, and then you could go to our previous Show More section if you didn't find the result that you're looking for here. So far, so good. The thing behind the scenes that really gets us, that we have to make sure, is that every change that we make here, we have to make sure that, especially with the edit window, right, that all the things are still being sent to the right, the mod queue properly, with no issues, and everything just sort of functions, and that just takes a while to get through. It's a lot of testing. All right. All right. I wanted to get to some topics. I didn't have a lot of time to look for them on the forum, so if anybody has anything that you want to bring up or talk about or anything like that, let me know. We can have a good conversation about anything, whether it's a hot topic, a small topic, anything to do with LaunchBox, or not LaunchBox. Let's just open it up. But the first one that I did want to discuss, because I did luckily glance at it. It was a comment on a previous video that I guess was previous stream's video that was finally uploaded. The request was, and maybe anybody has an opinions on these, they want to be able to go to the playlist section, and instead of it listing your playlists, allow you to create categories, which are basically like folders, and move your playlists around into those folders. So create like a nested environment inside of the playlist section. I can talk a little bit about a few things. The first one is why that's not a thing right now. In general, every single section here is a lot of people think of this as like the platform side panel or something like that, but what it really is in essence is a filters side panel where you can change the filter to all of these things. That's why there's so many things here. You can change the filter to genres, you can change the filter to region, and get like, and now this becomes your region and you can filter it that way. This was the original concept of LaunchBox, was this. It's become less required, I guess. Still there ever since we got this sort of filter button that kind of does things in a more traditional way. But that was the original concept. It was just like, let's list all the ratings out. It's essentially just a list of everything. The only one that was traditionally different was platform category, where platform category specifically was a modular section that is set up so that you could have a place, you could have your own, a user could have their own sandbox where you can go in and you can set up nest folders, and I guess we call them nest categories inside of platforms, playlists, whatever you want. Put together a list and make it whatever you want. Essentially this section. It's the only section that has it. Every other section, if you go into platforms, you're supposed to see all your platforms. If you go into the installed status, you're going to see the filter of whether the game's installed or not. That's what these are. These are essentially just the filter. You're filtering by these things. It's not like a playground for you to play. So when you go into playlists, it's a simple list that basically says, here are your playlists. And now I only have these two playlists. So there wasn't really any thought into, well, can we turn all of these filter sections into these sort of categories, into these sandboxes that you can now categorize all these sections? Should we just do it for playlists? So when we think about it, it's like, it's a systemic change that instead of just listing things, we would now need to apply a brand new kind of set of logic that works within the playlist section, which will then influence not just the way that people navigate through it in LaunchBox, but navigate through it in Big Box. And we'd have to kind of figure that out. in the process, it would be a big enough change that we'd probably break a few things and we'd have to fix a few things. And the way that you kind of have to view it would be you put the value. So if there's enough people that value this kind of thing, we would take that and put a value of like from 1 to 10, and then we would look at the amount of effort that would cause, maybe from 1 to 10, and then we would put like a risk value of some kind from 1 to 10. How vital are the things we have to touch in the code, and the value to the user would get influenced by the votes that maybe come in on the place like FeatureBase. So if that's interesting to you, whoever is listening to this on YouTube, definitely go to feedback.launchbox.gg and make an official request. And that will start that process up for this one. All right, let's get to the process. What I'm going to do today is really show people the process of what it would take to, on my end, get a beta release out, to set the stage. Behind the scenes, we have cataloged all of the problems that we've been facing. That users have been facing, that we've been able to test. In the past, I showed off what it takes for us to test something in either last week's stream or the stream before. And we basically went through that process with everything. In fact, over here, I'm currently still running tests in Big Box. And for people that are having problems with Big Box freezing and stuff like that, right now, unfortunately, I have a laptop that's running Big Box in different ways. I keep kind of changing which views are using and some options, trying to get that secret sauce. And the only reason is because I've had this thing running for days and it's still going, which doesn't really help out the situation, but I guess it's good for me. And that got a pretty smooth running Big Box right now. I have two devices there running Big Box, and one of those devices did finally freeze, so we know that it's a thing. It did take a very long time for it to get there, unfortunately. And this is us putting it in a situation where it's moving as fast as possibly it can. Like switching games, getting to the next game, and just doing that over and over and over again. And so far, they've been running pretty good, unfortunately, I guess. So, best theory right now is that problem is related to maybe like a timing issue. I'm probably going to say this wrong, but sometimes you make a fix, you fix something in somewhere, you make things slightly faster, let's say in Big Box, and because of that, in certain areas, that the timing of other things ends up being not the same or right. So you kind of throw the whole system just like a little off, and when you get into that situation where two things are trying to happen at the same time, or something that should be happening before something else is now reversed, it kind of goes, I wasn't expecting that, and then that's where you see kind of those freezing things happening. So it's quite the balance that has to be struck there. And Andre, welcome in. What do we have here? We've got some games. I guess right now everybody's looking at my game queue. What we're going to do right now is put out the beta release. Now, I said behind the scenes, we worked through all the problems that we could. You can see what those problems are on the changelog right here. And this is the stuff that will end up being fixed in this beta for people. And then you'll see what the process that I have to go through right now to get this beta out. So we're at the stage where we fixed these things. We built the beta file, and the file is up on our server waiting for it to be released. So this is what I do from that point on. So I'm going to close LaunchBox, and I had just downloaded the file here. It's a brand new file. Windows doesn't like new exe files, as people that download programs can attest to. I'll run an unblock on this file. Nope, still doing a backup. And I will install it to make sure that this installer is installing properly. Now I have a list, although it looks like it closed. Of some of the things that I probably should be aware of. All right, let's use this, because I can zoom this in. So we've got a TechnoParrot update. I'll show you what that is. We've got retro achievement scan. Dolphin games. Talk about that. Talk about issues with attempt to hide console window on startup shutdown. We'll talk about that. It is an issue. A few small things there we don't have to get into. The import DOS game wizard. When was the last time anyone used that wizard? Let me know. Kind of curious. All right, so first test was, hey, installer is working. It installed fine, no problems, and it is here. Another thing that we noticed was there was a problem with, to be honest, it was the critical zone theme that I'm sure many of you have used over the years. And it was a problem with a file inside of this folder. That is a lot of files in that folder. It's a very old theme, and we used to do this, need this styles folder, excuse me, which we don't really need anymore. Let me make sure which one it was airing out. There was a file missing. It was this one and this one. All right, so they're there. That's good to see. And let's finish writing out our list. So second step that we're going to do, now that we know that the installer's fine, is just run through some tests. We're going to make sure that the things that we fixed are still fixed. I don't see any problems, so there'll be a fairly quick test, I would say. I'm just going to write out the list for your guys' sake. There was check marks not working for badges. Let you know what that means in a second. And certain badges, actually, I don't even know if I'm set up to test that, to be honest. No, I still might be. So I would just headers. I'm going to call it arranged by headers, not set up. not appearing with certain badges from plugins. Alright, that's probably enough to test on this stream. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Can I, I'll put this only in this corner, probably makes sense. Techno Parrot, all you Techno Parrot fans out there, I know you're somewhere. I just don't know where. The one thing that you notice, and this might actually be live now. So Techno Parrot is now an option inside of the Add Emulator window. And what that will do is it'll set up all of the options that are required for it to function properly. Most notably this right here. At that point, if you know how, like, you have to do some extensive setup in Techno Parrot, and that's on you. Set that up, set up Techno Parrot, make it work. Then you'll know that it sets up these XML files for each game. And you'll have to take those XML files and then import them into LaunchBox. And what this will do here is it will automatically take those XML files and then just make them work, if that makes sense. That's it. This is basically your secret sauce command right there. I was streaming about Android just last week. We'll see how much time we have. I'm sure everybody will love if I can look into Android right after this. Okay, so Techno Parrot there, check. All right. Second thing on my list, that Dolphin has retro achievements now. So what does that mean? All right, let's do this from scratch so that I know that it's actually working. This is the wrong version. And here I go, set up my nice playlist, and I'm gonna have to destroy the data. Let's GameCube playlist. All right, so we're going to start from scratch. And we're going to make sure that this is probably not the best idea, but the idea here is that retro achievements, the way that we do scanning in LaunchBox to make sure that to indicate to you that a game might have achievements, is we use a program that the retro achievement team creates themselves called RA Hasher, which is found here on GitHub. And it's this program right here. Probably what's one of these? I can't remember which one we use now. Maybe the 32-bit one. And we use that program. We can send a file to, and it outputs back a hash that then can be compared to via the LaunchBox or the retro achievement API that they give us. What is the process here done? So my build has both. I've got some storefront games already installed. They were imported. Media was downloaded for them. But then I also have some files inside of the games folder. Because it's a new build, it is decided it's going to import them all. So here you go. It has imported the games in the game folder, meaning I guess that still works, which is good to hear. And So back to the retro achievements. So that's basically how it works. Why wasn't Dolphin working? Well, it was if you had ISO files. You could use that process. If you didn't, and you decided to use RVZ or RVZ files, it is not working. And I guess whatever the process was not then integrated into RA Hasher, which for the most part, that's how it works. Instead, what happened was Dolphin itself, let's see, I should have the emulator here somewhere, has its own command line tool called Dolphin Tool, and they included a way inside of Dolphin Tool to output the hash. So like scan a file, scans the header of the file or something, and then outputs a hash. And that was only a thing since Dolphin, something like 2409 or something like that, dash R3. Which it was a fairly recent release, a few months ago or something. And so since then, you had the capability of using Dolphin Tool to output a hash, which then we could use to compare to that API from Retro Achievement. So now the goal here is that if you have GameCube or Wii games, and if you have a Dolphin version that's greater than that version 2409 R2, and you have retro achievement set up and all that stuff, now you can run this tool, our achievement scan for all games or specifically GameCube or Wii, and we are now able to use that tool in the emulator to determine whether your game has achievements or not, if your games are RVZ. A lot of specific factors, if you're kind of understanding me, which some people are kind of in. They're kind of in. Focusborg, right? You're in that. And how you doing? Glad you can join. But you're in that specific scenario. Or are you? Do you have RVZ files for your GameCube or Wii? And you want to use retro achievements inside of Dolphin? Well, now's your lucky day. And we're going to test that right now. So in iSense, I'm going to do something. I'm hoping that this actually works. Oh, you don't use RA? Well, this is not for you then. It's a very specific set of circumstances. So I wouldn't say that scanning for GameCube games hasn't worked. It has worked unless you use RVZ files. No way, you can stay. You can stay. Just you can just pretend that this is the scenario that works for you. All right, let me point this to GameCube folder, and let's watch some GameCube games come in, I hope, still. I haven't actually tested this process in a while. And for people watching this, I don't recommend importing your games the way that I'm about to. On top of that, do I need Dolphin? Is Dolphin going to get in the way of this process? Might. Maybe it was not a good idea to do it this way. Alright, so now that you're here, Focusborg, I can fill you in on what we're doing. We are releasing a beta for Windows, and I'm showing the process of what I do to go through the beta release steps. We fixed a bunch of stuff. We've created the file, the beta file, and so far what I've done with it was I used the file, made sure that the setup file is working and it installs and the update works fine. Then I wrote out a list of these things, which are sort of like the major things that we've fixed that I can use to test. One thing that I will do is move on to these ones. These ones are easy to test. Basically, you can see here, if I turn on badges here, every single one, if every single one of these child badges, or let's just call them badges, are enabled, there should be a check mark on this parent category here. For some people, the check mark for storefronts and plugin badges was not working. And now it is. Good. All right, next. The next one is the arrange by headers, which give you context. If I went to genre, for example, the arrange by headers were not working, were not being shown. If you had a specific badge, additional apps, and obviously they are working now. I'm assuming if this was on, which it is. Let me click all of them. This one doesn't have one, but all of them other ones should. Going through. Oh yeah, that one doesn't have one either. So far so good. Still good. Still there. Doesn't have one. We're good. That one doesn't have one. Still good. Yeah, that's right, Andre. We can do the same thing for Android at some point as well. It's always another stream. All right, so far so good. We're good with the headers and the look of them. So that one's done. So what's left? We did that. We did that. So these three. And Primordial, welcome in. So you've been using LaunchBox for years and you love the work. Thank you very much. I hope that, what about it do you like? What do you use LaunchBox? How's your use case? What do you like about it? And what would you want changed? As you answered that, and as I was testing the other things, GameCube came in. So here's my GameCube. Games, and we're going to use, Black and Bruised. Let's use that game. And we're going to install Dolphin. And this is where we're going to test two different things. First one is that achievements are getting picked up. I can't remember if I needed to sign in to Retro Achievements. Let me double check that on this one. I do need to sign in. Oh, let's go there. I believe I'm just that. Guess I should get my API probably over here, so I can find it. And now let's see if we're scanning okay. There it goes. All right, so Primordial, you're saying you use it for arcade. So do you just have arcade games, or did you, like, what other stuff did you add on top of arcade games? Or did you do something fun with the arcade games? Are you I want everything guy, or you want like a very small curated list? And Focusborg, you want an enhanced arcade emulation. Actually, that's not a bad idea. So for each continue, you got to pay us $0.25. But in essence, what would it be like? I don't think we could do that per se. I'm trying to think if that's even possible. But if you look back in our gamification talk, it could be something to do with arcade, where if you get to some sort of milestone inside of the arcade, you know, leaderboard's probably the most obvious thing, that you earn some LaunchBox bucks. So you're an everything guy. And that's for like entire sets of games and more than just arcade games. How are you finding that? Do you just have the arcade sticks, or do you need, how many peripherals, how many other controllers and devices do you have on your arcade cabinet? All right, you can see that this is working fine for TurboGrafx 16. Now, remember, very specific set of scenario here. What I'm testing is that RVZ files down here. Oh, that's very loud. Down here, this file, if you can see it, is an RVZ file. That those files can work with Dolphin. So I made sure that there's a Dolphin here, and that Dolphin is above 2409-R3. So this is the most latest one as far as this video is 2412. That is a very loud sound. Which 8-bit DOE do you have, controller? We were just talking about 8-bit DOE controllers just earlier today. I am going to make it so that these videos do not autoplay. Okay, so like the SNES version of like the Pro 2, like this guy, but like the one that's just the SNES. Yeah, that one's really cool too. MMO gaming, 8-bit is the best. Here's the funny story about this. Because now when you think about that company, you think, hey, they make quality controllers. They come out, they're really good. You feel them, they feel really nice. When they first hit the scene, they created a bunch of controllers to see what see if they make money. And I guess they sold enough to move on. But those controllers consisted of this one. See if I can find it. Yeah, this one. And I kind of fell in love with this controller. Anybody remember this one? I looked at it, and at the time there was nothing like it. I'm like, wow, it's like a NES controller. But it looks like more comfortable to use, and it's got all of the buttons that you would want for mostly a modern setup. So I got one. I went to a store and actually saw it there and bought it. Brought it home. And it was rough. It was not a good controller. It was tiny, very small, very light and cheap feeling. Like the plastic, so light, super light that they actually sold like an adapter for it that would attach to your phone, and I got that too. And I put the phone on top, and the phone was so much heavier than the controller, like so much heavier that it kept like leaning the phone back and forth. Like you literally couldn't use it. And the analog stick was known to stick. So you'd move it to one side and it would just stick to that side. You'd let go and it would just be there. And that was my experience with 8BitDo. And so as they kept going and creating more controllers, I kept saying, oh, they're creating more controllers, but they're like the quality's not there. Like they just create cool looking controllers. It took me forever to buy into these new controllers, and once I did, realize that they got their game together and actually create really nice stuff now. Do you have Primordial? Do you have any light guns or anything like that? Does anybody have any light guns? Yeah, but that initial perception of like using that controller and buying in really hampered them in my eyes, which kind of sucked. But I'm glad that they succeeded. Guys, nobody has one, eh? Not even like the old ones. If you were to get a gun set, which one would it be? Is there anyone that's like piquing anybody's interest? There was a long time where the Sinden light guns like had a video and became like really popular. So you have your arcade in an MK2 arcade 1-up. I wanted to do that so badly. I wanted to get a 1-up arcade. And instead, because I didn't want to spend a lot of time like building one. I don't want one too heavy. Instead, I am an owner of the I'm gonna say it's called the Legends Ultimate Arcade, which is not too bad, to be honest. I'm definitely using it mostly out of the context of what it wanted me to use it. Yeah, that one. This one. Basically this one. Not quite. But they have an HDMI output, and I attached a mini PC to it, and I've been using that. I just wanted something simple, something that could set up. It's got spinners, it's got 2 spinners, it's got a trackball, and all the controls that you would want. Plus, I've got the side pinball things. That is actually displayed there. That's actually sold separately. Although maybe it's now together, like one unit now, I think I heard. And out of the box, it just worked. Plugged it into HDMI. Sound works. It's got sound options. It's not 100% perfect, though. But if you just know a little bit of what you're doing, it's fine. It worked out really well. That's what I have. But I'm kind of interested. So what did you guys say about the guns? Game Noob, you ripped a gun con out and you made an open fire version. That sounds like a lot of work. But I heard that Gun for IR is the best system. They're super expensive if you're going to make. I mean, it's not a system, right? It's like a set of instructions on how to make your own. So you went through that process and you did that. Nice. That's a good price for doing it on your own and getting all the stuff together yourself. And if you know what you're doing, that's pretty nice. I do not know what I'm doing, so I would much prefer that there's some sort of unit out there that will give you the same kind of result that you can just buy into and just have. Retro Python bot, a guy that does our videos, and surprisingly not in this stream today, or else he would probably say that he bought this thing here. Retro Shooter. And I asked him the other day, how is it? Is it any good? Is it bad? And this comes with, like, I think he got 2 guns, and I think it has pedals even for like some of those pedal gun games. And he sent me this picture, which basically means he hasn't taken it out of his box. But hey, you never know. If this ends up being half decent, like it's accurate, doesn't get out of too much. I'm not endorsing this company. I have no idea if it's any good. But if it is, might need to pick one up. Pedals, yeah. Definitely some pedals. That like would complete the whole set. You know, the title called Multi-Purpose Arcade Combat Simulator. Am I really looking this up? Was a shooting simulator for the US Army. Wow. They didn't want to use Super Scope? That is crazy. So here's what I'm looking at. Yeah, so it was a simulator for the US Army is a cheap way to train shooting skills. With these like rifles. No way. It's on the games database. Who added it to the games database? I'm gonna say this wrong, aren't I? Yes, I am. Hey, look, they just took that. What do we got? A fan art of a NES controller right there. Why would they have an NES? Oh yeah, that's a fun fan art. I guess this is what it. Oh no, these are all fan arts. That's interesting. The replica was accurate to the real thing. Nice. I guess the question is, does it work with the Super Scope? I guess that would defeat the purpose, but anyway, sidetracked. Let's run the scan. I guess I should do that, shouldn't I? All right. So what you'll notice is two things. Because of how this scan needs to work, right? We're doing something different than the normal RA hasher. You'll notice that it's a little slower than the other scans, but that's okay. You only need to do this once. It doesn't work with any other light gun. That sucks. So this is going to take a little while. And as I do that, let me remind myself what is left. So I'm currently doing that one. And the second last one is an issue with the attempt to hide console window on startup and shutdown, which is an option on every single emulator that what it attempts to do is if the emulator in question has a command line window open, a CMD window just there, and then the emulator opens up on top of it, that option will attempt to hide that window so you never see it. That's it. That's what the option does. I guess less useful if you use startup screens, since we're hiding all of that anyway. But it's a thing. And what happened was there was a fallback. I might be saying this wrong, but there was a fallback scenario built in to say if the hide didn't work, then let's minimize the window instead. And we use some sort of window styling to accomplish that. But in .NET 9, it did not support that function in the same way as in any other .NET. And so what ended up happening was you would try to open up the emulator and it would run that minimize thing. And this is for emulators where it triggered this fallback. So an emulator where it didn't even require this step really to begin with, to be honest. So emulators like Dolphin, I heard Dolphin, Vita 3K, and there's one other one. I think I heard Mezen. And I think I barely heard it because barely anyone uses Mezen as an emulator. And so for those three, you would mostly see that if it was the window was supposed to go full screen, if the emulator was supposed to go full screen, it wouldn't. You would see a bunch of flashing, and that flashing is basically being like, try to minimize, boom, no, do it again. It kept like looping like that until eventually it just failed. And if you caught it quickly enough, you could like get Dolphin to play, get Vita 3K to play, but it would play in a tiny window, like it wasn't maximized. And so that's what caused it. The solution was, we don't really need that fallback. It doesn't work anymore. Let's just not have it do that. And so that solved the problem. All right. So retro achievement scans, look at this. There are achievements on games now. on my RVZ set. 112 in my set. I don't have all of them. I know I don't have all of them because when I was checking some of the achievement sets that they support, some of them were specific to European versions, which I do not have in my my set. But I mean, 112, that seems like a lot. And at the same time, let's check one of these games, and you should now see achievements on them right there. Good. And they are grabbing the right details. The first letter. I think we're doing good. All right, what else did we fix? The option to attempt to hide console window on startup. So there's the option right there. The workaround is turn that off. If you turn that off, you'd be good to go. But now you don't have to turn it off because even with it on, let's see if the game now doesn't flash in my face. Ooh, it's a brand new version. There we go. Full screen and works fine. So at least we know that. So we can check that off of our list. Ooh. There you are. And then the last thing here is the import to DOS Game Wizard. And I know a lot of you were so sad when this wizard, and completely didn't just ignore this wizard for many, many years to this one right here. Install DOS game. Everybody's very familiar with this wizard, right? I'm going to say yes. Or are you nodding at your screen saying I did not know that existed? Use it every day. Yeah, there, Mr. Nibble. And we disappointed you, Mr. Nibble. We disappointed you. We did not open it up once during testing. Didn't even think about it. And it did not survive the .NET 9 process. This wizard is basically the first ever wizard, I think, that was added to LaunchBox. It's still created in an older framework, and it is, I guess, a blast from the past. If you want to see what LaunchBox was, open up this wizard. And make sure that it works. That'd be nice. I do believe it does. But I can think of maybe 5 different ways that you can import DOS games in a little bit better fashion at the moment. For most users, I would say. Okay. And now that we saw that, I am pretty happy that we've got a nice working beta. So, who wants to hit the big red button? As I get everything squared away and open for the next step here. All right, so this is how it works. I guess I'll press the button. All right, here's a little thing behind the scenes. This is what it looks like. So you can see Windows Official, Windows Beta. This is a dangerous page to have open because this determines whether there's an update available for people or not. And if you type the wrong thing in or have the wrong thing going for it here, you basically break LaunchBox updates for people. All right, so let's not do that, and let's do this right. All right, focus time. We know that we're doing a beta, and that beta is 13.20 beta 1. So I'm just gonna copy and paste it. There's no way I can get that wrong, right? Copy it and paste it. There's no like spaces anywhere. We know that the minor version is now 20 and the beta version is now 1. I think we're okay. 13, 20, and 1, which is higher than this official one, which is 19. I should have said big blue button. Are we ready? Are we ready? So once I click this button, it goes live, and everybody can rejoice with me. Let's do this. Andrew, it reminds you of Microsoft? When Microsoft was developing Windows Mobile and betas were published with actually pushing a physical red USB button. That's funny. All right, it's done. I'm closing this window. I don't want to see it. I don't want to make a mistake. Okay. We're there. We did it. What do I do? Please remind me tomorrow. Cancel. There's a nice window that's not working. So, the first thing that I do is I'm going to jump into my setup that I should have set up before, but I didn't. Time to create a brand new version of LaunchBox, which is going to be my test bed. Actually, I don't need to do that right now. Let's use LaunchBox temp. And the next step for me is to do a live update. So I need to make sure that that update is actually working, or else you just never know, right? Is it coming down from the server? Is that actually working? There is some delay to when I press the button to when it actually goes live. Sometimes. There are some things behind the scenes that need to happen. And so this build, let's just make sure I'm on the right build, to be honest. What am I on? 13.19. Okay. So the settings of this one should be that I don't want it to update at all. But check for updates on startup and update to betas. Which means I should be able to click this check for updates. So it's still not live. Or I screwed it up. But I'm going to go with that it isn't live. Not yet. But it's going to be soon. One of these times, I'm going to click that button, and this is going to switch from there are no updates at this time to there is a new beta update available. Dun, dun. How long? Nothing yet. Why it's very important to do this test. Still waiting. Also, something to worth noting that the upload to the server could have gone wrong. That's something I wouldn't know up until now. But usually pretty good, but it's not unheard of that we upload to the server, but then that somehow that upload is just not the best. Surprised it hasn't updated yet. You know what? Something that I need to check, and maybe there's a reason for this. At this point, it should have prompted me. Although not always. Okay, so that did work. So it is saying that I'm on a beta. Everything looks good here. Everything looks good there. Did anybody manage to get the beta to work? I don't know if anybody's going to. Oh, look at that. I just had to wait just a little bit longer. And there, new beta. Focus Board, you got the beta? Let's do this. So this is what I call a live test. A test of our systems to make sure that the file on the server is okay, the process to update is okay, all that stuff. And at this point, I'm not going to announce anything, but it's just sort of there for people that are kind of waiting and they've chosen to take the betas, and those people can test the system all with me, right, Focus Board? You can be there with me. And as that's working, what I normally do is we have some testing that we need to do, or we've got a post that we have to update. So because this is a new beta round, I've got to create a new forum post, the new beta forum post, get people to start looking at that, tell people about it, and that will be the place that we collect data from users. Everything is fighting for bandwidth, yeah. Isn't that how it goes? Almost done. 99%. There we go. All right, file has been downloaded. And now it's running the install process. Let's see how quickly it does that. So far looks good. Yeah. It's preparing to install LaunchBox. Right, in the meantime, I'm going to start that new thread. Here it goes. So in general, this one will be This beta round and this whole process will be a much shorter release cycle. The goal is to address the major issues that we had with 13.19 as quickly as possible. So if all else, if everything goes well, then we're really looking at a release of 13.20 next week with just fixes and a few of these improvements that we have. One of them for all you ScumVM fans, and this is another one that's a very, very specific use case. If you're a ScumVM fan and you've decided that you want to use RetroArch and you've decided that you want to use those ScumVM files that get generated through RetroArch, if you know what you're doing, and you have those files and you have them loaded into ScumVM and everything's set up, and you want to use those ScumVM files inside of LaunchBox, you now can. I know all of you guys are in that boat, so you're welcome. All right. Live test went well. I am up on 13.20 beta 1 within a live test. And I'm sure Focusborg, you are there with me at this point, I'm assuming. Play a Sega Master System game. Almost there. I'll wait for you, don't worry. I won't let you venture into the beta alone. Alright, I'm pretty happy with where we are right now. We've managed to get the beta up and working. I mean, in total, we got the beta around. We installed it manually, made sure that the setup file is good. We tested some of the major features of the release. We made it live and then tested a live update. And this happens every single beta and every single release, even more so. And at this time, we can kind of like feel okay, like a little pressure's off. Things seem to work on our side. The beta is out. It'll fix a number of problems that we know are fixed. And now for a brand new thing that I need to do, and I'm hoping I can do this on stream here, although I might not be able to. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Oops, that did not work at all. I'll make sure I'm not going to expose any information here. And I think that's all I need, actually. Okay, good. I think we're good. Okay, so I should be able to do this. I am going to go through this list. So this was in the fix, so I'm going to say that this is completed. And this one is also completed. The attempt to hide console window. Took forever, huh? And then it worked. Must be your bandwidth. Let's blame it on that. There's one that I didn't test, but hey, I can test now. So the game save feature was airing out. Oh, I have this turned off. I'll need to turn it on for this. Oh, I have it off because this is a free user. A LaunchBox temp, time to make you premium member. Okay. So let's assume that I did install. Oh, I didn't install RetroArch here. Good news is I should have something here. Although I bet it's a very old version. Wonder how old actually. Is it so old that it's not going to work? I think it is very old. You're in. You're in. Assume is what you're referring to there. It's so old of a RetroArch version that the command to get its version doesn't work. That's fun. Now I don't know if it's going to work for saves and all that stuff. First we got to change these to actually use this emulator. Alright, I know Adam's family. Does this work? Let's import a save file. Yeah, this image file is 100% a save file, right? And now that we have a save file, let's import it. There you go, it imported. And delete the backup. We can back that up. And we can delete the files. Look at that. So that was airing out before. And the DOS importer, that was Mr. Nibble's favorite importer in LaunchBox, is now fixed. This is no longer investigating. The YouTube streaming thing is now in progress. And the big box freezes, we're still investigating. And what's cool is that I don't know how many of you guys ended up with this, but there was a known, some people were opening up LaunchBox and finding that after the update it was just like crashing out. And whenever that happens, it's usually due to some sort of plugin, third-party plugin. And short story, we were getting a lot of reports that a plugin called Omega Settings was causing problems. And I don't know if you're there, Super Rob, but I had no idea what that was at first. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Don't think I've heard of that third-party plugin before. I checked the forums, did not see it. It was not something on our forums, but people kept saying that, like, providing reports saying that this Omega Settings plugin was causing a crash. Well, I mean, you can remove it and it wouldn't then crash. So that's one of the things that they're saying in this known issues. And I guess long story short, it's a plugin that was created for a specific company, arcade cabinet company that sells arcade cabinets, that includes this plugin in their live builds. And no idea what it was, and it was crashing due to the .NET 9 upgrade. And so hopefully, it sounds like, and I haven't gotten back to Super Rob, if you're there, I haven't gotten back to you, but I will. And it sounds like, so Super Rob was the creator of this plugin, and he should have fixed it up for them. So all people that have bought cabinets from them, rejoice. You can now update to 13.19 or 13.20, or I guess 13.19 or 13.20 beta 1 if they really wanted to. So focus board for you, it caused a change your view settings for some reason. You're a LaunchBox user, so which view settings are you referring to? Like it was all of a sudden a list view or something? That's a weird problem. Since updates don't touch data files, so while it didn't change your setting, maybe the update changed the look of a particular setting that you already were using. All right, so I think we're good. We're completed. I think I responded to all these already, saying that they will be available in 13.20 beta 1. I did. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I already did what I was supposed to do. The last thing that I'll do, and the last piece that I've got to do in this sort of setup is... Hold on one second. I am getting a call. Yeah, that sounds like a hotkey thing. Let's blame it on a hotkey, which isn't out of the question. I mean, there's all these hotkeys. Look at all these ones set to these things. Okay, so I'm gonna write this, I guess, on screen because I got nothing else planned. So this is the beta thread, and I'm going to get a list of the change logs and paste them in here. And I guess I'll bullet them up. Right. There's probably one more thing. Okay, so I'm going to write known issues. Actually, there was a number of things that I wrote in the last one that I should probably take. I'm gonna take this. I wrote out all these instructions for people. There you go. Wish I could hide this inside of something. I don't think this forum has any way to style that in a way that I would like. So instead, I have a known issues section, and I did with beta 1. Actually, it's more known issues. In beta 1, we've been testing the reported issue with Big Box. Anybody here that's had Big Box freezes that happen really, really quickly? I wish I had a device like that, but I don't. It's weird that all of my devices, Big Box does very well in the same scenarios that people are talking about. So maybe I'll ask for some details here. Yeah. Enables your addiction to nostalgia and retro gaming. That's exactly. So we've been heavily testing the reported issue with Big Box. Big Box freezing in certain scenarios. We are unable to reliably reproduce it. If you are one that's facing this issue, the following information would be extremely useful. Okay, there we go. What information is useful? Anybody know any information that could be useful here? Theme. View. Hopefully I don't need to go into detail there. Maybe I will. Theme being used. Unfortunately, the log is not useful in this scenario. The way that it seems to work is Xbox doesn't realize anything bad is happening, and Windows doesn't realize anything bad is happening. It thinks it's fine. Obviously, it's not. But what can you do? Okay. Theme, view. I guess it doesn't hurt to have. Okay, hold on. Theme is crashing on. View. Have 3D models turned on. Off. List of transitions used would be helpful. Do you have background music? Do you have game music? Do you use videos? Anything else that could or could not be influencing this? That's weird. I just noticed that Dolphin is open, but not. Might have been like that for a while, actually. Let's start with that. That's a lot of information, but good information that could help us track this thing down. It's a good one, Game Noob. Let's add that here. big box. Yeah. I'll say like all games, platforms, platform, categories. And source. I'll say it like this. Steam videos, maybe movies videos. There you go, Primordial, you're up and running. Good luck. Basically, what we're trying to do with this is recreate their situation exactly the same. And we're looking for someone who's like, it fails within 10 minutes. That would be a good, less time-consuming way to test this out. All right, I think we're good. That's good enough. So you know what? There's one more. There you go. Plugins would be nice to know, wouldn't it? Installed. Which, be honest, there's one more. What you were doing when Big Box froze? E.g., was it in attract mode? Did you return file and press a navigation button and then it froze? You know, it might be interesting to say which game did it freeze on? And then maybe at the bottom, I can say like screenshot of freeze could be helpful. Could show a pattern if enough people show us screenshots and they have a specific pattern to them. That could be helpful. I think the game would be useful. I don't think it has anything to do with the emulator. So leave the emulator out. I think I listed game. Yeah, what game did it freeze on? So I think we're good. Okay, let's do this. Let's see if we can get people to look. So I will pin this. And it should be out now. Always double check. Does anybody else do that? You're like, I'm gonna press the button, and then you just like, let me just read it over one more time. There's a mistake somewhere in there. I don't know where, but that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna let those go for a bit. You do work and forget if I printed and what you just did? Yeah. Right, Mr. Nibble? You could look at it for hours and you're just like, everything looks great. You press the button and like within 5 minutes, you're like, oh my God, I found like 5 mistakes. You're like going through it, trying to fix it. It's like, I was looking at it for an hour. How did I not see any of this stuff? Okay, so I'll let that settle in for a little while, and I'm going to do something. Mr. Nibble and Joe, you must be hiding there somewhere, whether right now or in the YouTube videos later. We had introduced the plugin manager and said we were going to introduce some new emulator plugins. I don't know if you had to look at this objectively. Anybody that all of you guys that use you don't realize you're using the plugin manager, but use our system to update, download, or update emulators. And you're looking at the emulators that we support. Which ones would you want us to add? There you are. See? All I have to do is say your name, and I did the same thing. My brother streams all the time, and get over here. And my brother streams all the time, and I'll be lurking in his videos sometimes, just like listening. And he'll go on some rant where he brings me up. And then he'll always say something like, "Yeah, I wish you were here. Like, I wish you were here. We could talk about." And then I'll just say something in the comments like, "You called?" And I did this so many times that he just figures that every time he brings up my name, somehow that gives me a notification, and I just like join his stream and be like, "Did you call?" All right. So what was I going to say? So there is the first question for people that do use the emulator integration process. Are there any emulators that you're wishing that we would support? That's question number one. Number two is we have one waiting, and we've been really we have one that's basically like 95% ready. And you know which one I'm talking about, Joe. We have an integration for that's a good question, actually, Andrew. I will come back to that. I know you're saying like a joke, but it's a really good question. The emulator called, I'm gonna butcher the name, Zemu or Xemu. Basically the best Xbox emulator out there. With like not even, I don't even think it's close. Unless it got closer recently, but I don't think it has. It came out, it now looks like it runs 88% of the library. Nice, thanks Primordial. Good to hear. One other thing that I'll show off there is we do get some numbers. I mean, 88% of the game library is pretty good, considering that the Xbox, where for many years, was not playable. And I don't think that there's another emulator that works. And for the longest time, I personally was trying to play the Dungeons and Dragons game. I have an Xbox. I have the Dungeons and Dragons game, but the CD disc, DVD, I guess it was, broke at some point, and it's not really the best to start using your old Xbox. It is pretty fragile of a machine, and so, okay, all good. Let me write down what you guys are saying so I don't forget to bring these up. Duck Station. I want to discuss those with you. And for the longest time, that Dungeons and Dragons game, I think it's called Dungeons and Dragons Heroes, it was not playable. I mean, there was no emulator to play it. And so I waited and I was seeing like the movement with this XEMU or CMU emulator. I wish I could find out what the developers call this emulator. And one day it worked. Woke up, downloaded the latest version, and it was working. But it was working so bad. Like, it went in, and then none of the audio wasn't working, and the animations were like not right, and things weren't in. Like, it was getting there, but it wasn't playable. And yeah, it wasn't even like a few months later. It was fully playable, and I sat there and had so much fun playing this game. If you've never played this game and you have a setup where you can get this game, it's exclusive, just like this box saying, is only on Xbox. That is 100% true. They did not port this game anywhere else. It's sort of like Gauntlet Legends or something, but in a Dungeons and Dragons, and more like you can upgrade. Everybody has their own upgrades. So it's like a beat 'em up type Gauntlet Legends thing, and it's up to 4 players. Each player is unique and can get upgrades and earns experience and goes through that thing, and it's very satisfying if you like those kind of games. And so if you have a setup where you can play with 4 players, you got 4 controllers or something, it's like the best game night game if you like Dungeons and Dragons and this type of style. And man, yeah, once it was playable, that was something. Nice, you have it in your Xbox collection? Good. Really good game. I played a lot back in the day. I wish they would port it or something. Remaster it. I mean, it's an old game, so, you know, it's an Xbox game. What can you say? But we have a 95% plugin done for XEMU that will automatically download and set up as much as possible that we possibly can for this emulator to make it a little less taxing to set up. And I'm going to go through that process right now to show you guys, and I want your opinions on if you think this is ready to go, or anything that we can improve on, or anything like that. And just your gut reactions when I'm going through the process. But before that, let's go through the first question. Okay, so Andrew, you said all emulators, and there's one issue with that, and see how to frame this so I can ask a question. We have a system right now where you can import your games emulator agnostic. So you go there, and let's give an example here of an emulator, of a platform. Let's use Focusborg example, PlayStation 1. Let's say you go through the process of importing PlayStation 1, and you get to the point where you are going to play the game. So if I were to use this as an example, all right, Sony PlayStation, let me get a game. Oh, this is going to be a tough call. Which game do we bring over? I think I'll leave it up to you, Focusborg. Anybody want to say a game? Doesn't even matter, but it seems really important in this scenario. All right, you said it first. Point Blank. Why do I not have Point Blank? Or do I? I do. All right, so say I brought over a game. Oh, Focusborg, you were a little late. The automated import, you know what? I'm going to bring that one over too. That seems very important to have. Did I type it wrong? Do I not have Pepsi Man? I might not have Pepsi Man. Why do I not have Pepsi Man? Because it's a sampler disc, and I removed all sampler discs from my packs. Also, this is saying that there is a game called Pepsi Man, but it's Japanese exclusive. And I also remove all Japanese games. Okay, so that's right, Joe. I haven't made a backup of it yet. That's why. Alright, we got this game. Small Brawl, that's interesting. I don't even think I've heard of that one. Well, this looks like a good one for a gun. Well, I could be completely wrong. I'm assuming that this would use a gun. I have used the PlayStation gun before. I don't even know what it's called. I just know that went to a cousin's house once and he had it. And we did play the heck out of PlayStation at that time. Alright, back to the question at hand. So, I've imported this game, and I press the play button. And let's say in this scenario, Focusborg, that we include support to download DuckStation, and we know that RetroArch has a very good selection of RetroArch stuff. So now we press the play button and there's like a fight between... There's not going to be a fight here because I already have RetroArch set up. But let's pretend that didn't happen. And instead, what actually happened was a window pops up, and that window is going to state, hey, you do not have an emulator yet. We recommend. Which emulator would we recommend? Now we've got two options. Let's say we add them all, and now we have 5 options. So even though we have support for a specific emulator, let's say we decide we're going to put in a system where we recommend a particular emulator, but we have support to download 5 different emulators for that platform. So we recommend the one, emulator 1. Emulator 2, 3, 4, and 5 get delegated to, if the user knows about it, they can go to Tools, Manage, Emulators. They can say Add. They can go and they can choose the emulator and they can hit the download button. That's what those emulators now get relegated to. Is that enough of a feature to support all those emulators just for that functionality? And the fact that then we could potentially upgrade. What we've been doing up until now is being like, okay, let's add the best of the best for these platforms, right? So you see RetroArch as the main one, MAME. You see ScumVM. You see PCSX2. You see Dolphin, and you see Big P Emu. All of them are sort of like top of the class. This is the way you should be playing these games. As soon as we go to second tier emulators, emulators are not as like the value then drops down for users. Right, so sometimes RetroArch is not the best option. And that's where we started adding these ones. So we like started with the ones that we feel are the most user friendly for users, right? Less about like what they all can do and more about the shortest way that users can get to the game playing for, let's say, the most 80% of all users use cases. Yeah, do people really need that Game Boy emulator that now plays that one game that nobody plays, or is more the most accurate Game Boy emulator out there? Or do they just want to play some Game Boy games? What does the average user want? How do we get them from point A to point B and just be there? And so at this point, we've been adding all those emulators, the ones that we feel we should recommend. Now, I'd love to hear if there's any ones that we should recommend. So if you feel very strongly that DuckStation could provide a better experience for the majority of users, now's your time to justify that, and treat it basically like you're I'm the judge and you're pleading your case. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. In Game Noob, you're gonna have to explain that. When you say DS, do you mean Nintendo DS? Oh, you're talking about DuckStation. Okay, so with DuckStation, or that's an interesting conversation because there's many PlayStation cores. However, Focusboard, there's a Mezen core in RetroArch, which I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, would be nearly, if just as accurate as the regular program. Now, because it's more accurate, just hear me out, it's more performance intensive. So, I mean, it's an NES emulator. We slap Mezen on board, and now as the default, and now leave out some users, or it just seems like laggier than an NES emulator should be. You know, in sacrifice for performance. It's probably not that bad for most computers, but probably you get to the point where you feel it. You start feeling it the older the computer that you have. So I kind of wonder with DuckStation in particular, or PlayStation in particular, I wonder if there's a better core we could support, if that's true. Anybody have more than one gun con to test that with this Swan Station core? So that's why in like NES, for example, we say, hey, we kind of recommend Nestopia for most people. We set it, but you can literally just switch to Mezzin, which should be here on this list somewhere. Here it is. Mezzin right there. And for some people, that's more advanced users. I mean, intermediate users, not that hard to do. You hear about Mezzin, you go, how do I do Mezzin? You switch to Mezzin, and now you're using Mezzin. Just extra options. Options like cheats and patches. Although, and correct me if I'm wrong, because RetroArch I know has cheats, but I just don't know how it works, or if it's as good, or if it even works with PlayStation cores. Patches? That I'm not sure. Yeah, so like Game Boy doing cable support, like GunCon thing, like all that stuff. I would consider those like, you know, advanced features for users. And so the people that have a working light gun set or a working have some scenario where they want to play with from one 2-player Tetris or something, that some setup would have to be made for that to function, and they would know enough that they could probably set up that emulator themselves. I'm not even sure if we'd be able to go from like point A to point B and be like, boom, cable connection is now working for everybody. So like, I guess then the question would be, is there added value knowing that we could support an emulator even if it's not the one we recommend in a list here, hiding in this emulator window that for the most part most users won't have to open, so that they can click it and then there's a download button and they download it and we set it up. And is it enough value? If you had to rate that value from 1 to 10, what value would you give that? If you're looking at that value being value of LaunchBox community as a whole, not value to yourself. I don't mind the update all emulators. From a user perspective, that would make sense. I wonder how well that would work if you click that button. And I mean, we're messing with your emulators, right? We're moving files around. How bad would that troubleshooting process be if you click that and now all of a sudden something went wrong and now you don't know exactly what went wrong because there was this like, could have been any of those emulators. Yeah, I guess the difference, and maybe it's a subtle one, is that you sit there and you update the emulator. So if there's an error in the process, let's say of that one emulator, you kind of, as a user, the user experience is, oh, I press update on RetroArch, error, and on RetroArch. I guess we could build a process out, though, that could basically tell you where the error was and maybe move on to the other emulator and provide you with that feedback. To me, that's pretty scary, though. I would still probably use it. Yeah, yeah, that's what we would have to do. That's right. All things broke. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Let's go back to this process. To be honest, Game Noob, we don't get a lot of errors. So if an error happens, it would probably be due to one, the emulator itself has changed their server location or something like that. Their domain failed or they're no longer active, and people will get an error that we are unable to download the emulator. So that has happened in the past. The second thing that people would get that I've seen is the emulator is unable to be unzipped. I don't fully understand why. I feel like it's a permission issue. So they'll try to download, they'll use this process, download the emulator, and then we will unzip the file and place it. But then they get an error, oh, this file is unable to be unzipped. So it could, I'm guessing that that's a permission issue and or like a security issue, like some third-party program has now quarantined that file. LaunchBox tries to unzip that file and the file is locked, and we get an error saying that this emulator can't be unzipped. Or it could be like an account thing. Maybe their account, like doing that kind of unzipping, maybe it requires like an elevated type of thing on their computer that's locked behind something or other. It's some sort of permission thing. Anyway, those are the things that we normally get. The only time that would ever be corruption related, I guess, is if we're in the process of copying the files over and their power went out or something like that, like the computer shut off and it killed the LaunchBox process in the middle of that. And in order for checksum to work, we would have to somehow always be caching those somewhere, like in an automated process as new versions of all these emulators come out. We need like a system somewhere that's like constantly downloading new versions that they find, like do a check, download the emulator automatically, run some sort of check, and then store that somewhere. Would be the and that could only work somewhat, I would say. Can you name the emulators that don't have auto updater thing? All right, here's the last thing I'm going to do today, guys. I am going to run this Microsoft Xbox process. I'm going to take a look. I'm 100% doing it in the wrong folder. Make sure I've got the plugin. I don't even have it here. Where did I put it? Back to LaunchBox temp. It's somewhere here. This one. All right. That works. Just letting it sit there. I can't even remember now. Get back here. I'm just going to copy Dungeons and Dragons over. And we're going to find out how well this XEMU process is working. And for people that are watching, let me know how this process feels to you. Whether you guys here, Focusborg, Game Noob, anybody else lurking, or anybody on YouTube later. As I make sure that I actually just copied that in the right place. Temp. Into Microsoft. Pretty sure I did that right. There it is. There you are. Okay, so we got a game to test with. What did you just do? You imported Dungeons and Dragons Heroes for the Microsoft Xbox from this folder. Sounds good to me. No, that position of that emulator did not work. I'm probably missing something. Oh, I did miss stuff. I apologize there. That there are files missing. There we go. I'm getting the rest. I hope that still works. But now I have to remember how to set this up manually. Let's just go back to the plugins folder. Was there anything different, or am I remembering wrong? There it is. I mean, I can just call this anything, right? I could be wrong here, actually. Maybe I need to call this exactly. There, I was missing this file. And I could be naming that incorrectly, so I'll put that aside and we'll find out if I did this right or not. So in this process, This process is going to try to download and install that XEMU emulator for you. There we go. Okay. So this is saying we recommend XEMU for to play Xbox games. Let's download it. So we hit download. Downloads. And it's done. All right. What do you guys think so far? There's a question. How come it booted a second? Yeah, it's freaking awesome, right, Joe? Still works. Do you want to answer that? I'm gonna butcher. I'm gonna butcher why. So the reason why is because it needs to open to set up a folder structure required for the next part. And there was no way to open it gracefully or to auto-generate those places required. I think does it create like a config file or something as well? I can't even remember. Yeah, it's like the first time you launch that emulator, it starts creating all this stuff. And we need that stuff. But do you think Game Noob, so here's the question. Was that confusing enough for you to be like, wait a second? Like, and RetroPython, it needs a BIOS file and the hard drive file. That's right. It does need those files. And we will get to that in a second. Do you still need to create some of those files? Or the blank XEMU file? The answer to that is no. We set it up. It's fully portable. It should be fully portable version of XEMU. And we should also place the blank hard drive file there for you. We do that's all done already as part of that process. Yeah, so would that be confusing enough that, I mean, that was the screen that was holding us back. Was that confusing enough? We should not be releasing this plugin. I'm going to press play again. And now it's going to tell me it is missing BIOS files. This is a very, if you guys remember what it takes to set up Xbox, this like XEMU, it is quite daunting for especially the new user, or the user that's just used to RetroArch. We do have a great video on setting up that emulator, don't we? It was great for that guy to put that video together, wasn't it? He did a good job. Okay, so a prompt that happens beforehand. So that is what it's possible to get that, but because we're inside of like an emulator framework, the way that I understand it is that we would have to upgrade this plugin framework to include the ability to have that prompt, and then that would affect all plugins that we use, all emulator plugins. And we would have to update all emulator plugins. Or we do it in a way where it's sort of like an opt-in, and now every single emulator plugin kind of has that available, even though they might not need it. What I'm basically saying is, because we're using such like a global emulator framework, anything that we do specifically for an emulator is now needs to be available for all the emulators. Anyway, so something to think about, though. Let me write that down. And Focusborg, yeah, I mean, they you can set anything up manually, no problem. All right, cool. So you can see here that there's 3 things that this requires. The hard drive we got already, so that's done. Now we have to get this guy. I feel like I have it already somewhere. But let's see. All right. Okay, so gotta find it here. Let's do this quickly. All right. On there. There you are. It's been so long, I don't know which one I should use. Use the one on the top of the list. All right, so we've appeased the 3 sections. You are 100% right, Focusborg. Every single emulator that we add is another one we have to support. So you can kind of see how that would grow that the list of things we have to keep track of. Now, here's the thing about this plugin framework, that because it exists, anybody in the community should be able to create an emulator plugin using this process, using this framework. We haven't quite put it out there, but that's like the eventual goal. If somebody wanted to download or create one for Mezen and then made it available and you added it into your LaunchBox, like that would work. Yeah, we just need documentation on how that would work. That's right, Mr. Nibble. I don't know who that would be. Let's press the play button one more time. And it works. This is what I mean by this controller, for people that have been around since the beginning. I can pick it up, and then it just works. I don't have to press any buttons to get it to work. Yeah, right, documentation. Does have to be good and accurate and maintained over a long period of time to make sure that it remains accurate. But doesn't matter. We have someone that's willing to create a video on all that stuff for us. And this video will be proof that that's a video we should be expecting. I don't know, can you imagine? I'm skipping that because it's taking a while. Can you imagine playing a game like this back in like... ...2000?
Steady. You must be disoriented. Allow me to explain. We resurrected you to defend us from your old foe, Caden. He was brought back to life by a cult of foolish clerics who thought he could be tamed to do their bidding. And every moment, Caden's power grows. You are the kingdom's only hope. From here, you must go to Castle Bale and pass through its portals, and keep the planar gems from him. And then, you must defeat him again. Your journey through these crypts to Bale will strengthen you for the challenges that surely lie ahead. We will stay here to sanctify his tomb, but our blessings shall follow you.
I'm gonna skip this, if that's possible. It is not. It's gonna teach me how to play. Forgetting what the controls are. Ooh. Yeah, so this is, I think we'll leave on that. I think, got a skeleton key. I think I know what I'll be doing tonight. So, yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for being part of the chat. And we will obviously be back next week with more Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, LaunchBox. More LaunchBox for sure. Alright, before I get all carried away. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you guys soon. Have a good one, guys.